Obi-Wan sat in the Geonosian cell, wrists bound, dust in his lungs, and Dooku's words cutting deeper than any chain. "A Sith Lord controls the Senate," Dooku said, calm as ice. "The dark side is already inside your republic." In the original path, Obi-Wan rejected it. Here, he listened. Not because he trusted Dooku, because he trusted the Force, and the Force felt wrong around Coruscant, like a smile hiding a blade. Obi-Wan leaned forward. "If I go with you," he said, "I don't become your ally, I become your evidence." Dooku's eyes narrowed, measuring him. "Then come and see how much your council truly wants to know." Outside, the arena plans were already moving. Anakin and Padmé were being set up. The war was being staged like theater. Obi-Wan made his choice fast, before fear could argue. "Get me out," he said. "Now." Dooku didn't celebrate, he simply acted. A door opened, 2 Geonosian guards fell without a sound. Dooku unlocked Obi-Wan's cuffs, and for 1 second, Obi-Wan could have struck. He didn't. He memorized the moment instead. They moved through service tunnels under the arena, past droid racks and weapon crates marked for the Republic's future battlefield. Obi-Wan saw it clearly. This wasn't a rebellion, it was a factory for slaughter. In the hangar, Dooku's solar sailor waited. Alarms rose, droids turned. Obi-Wan ignited his saber, not against clones, against separatist security, cutting a path to the ramp. Dooku followed with elegant force, doors bending, guards thrown aside like dust. As the ship lifted, Obi-Wan looked down and saw the arena lights ignite. Anakin's ship was arriving. Obi-Wan reached for the comlink. Static. Jammed. Too late. The sailor jumped to hyperspace, and the first betrayal of the Clone Wars was born. Obi-Wan stood in Dooku's ship, watching stars stretch into lines. He whispered, "Anakin, I'm sorry." And on Coruscant, the Jedi Council received a single report that froze them cold. Kenobi has defected. The arena gates opened, and Anakin felt his stomach drop. Padmé stood beside him, wrists bound, eyes sharp but afraid. Across the sand, beasts prowled. Above them, Geonosians cheered like this was sport. And Obi-Wan was not there. Anakin searched the astands, the tunnels, the shadows, anything. Nothing. Only the awful truth rising in his chest. His master had disappeared the moment it mattered. Padmé leaned close. "Where is he?" Anakin's voice was tight. "I don't know." The first beast charged. Anakin yanked at his chain, pulled the post loose, and dragged Padmé toward cover. He fought like a cornered animal, smart, fast, angry. Padmé stayed alive by refusing panic, using every opening to pull him out of danger. Then the sky split open with engines. Gunships dropped through blaster fire, and Jedi ignited blades in mid-air, landing like lightning. For a heartbeat, Anakin felt relief. It died when he saw the command structure behind it. Clone troopers poured out, perfect formation, identical faces, no hesitation. A Republic army, suddenly real, arriving as if it had always been waiting. The battle turned savage. Jedi cut through droids, clones cut through Geonosians. The sand became smoke. Anakin fought his way to the nearest master. "Where's Obi-Wan?" he shouted. The answer came through a comm channel, cold and official. "Kenobi has defected with Count Dooku." Anakin froze just long enough to take a blaster bolt across the shoulder. Pain brought him back. Rage followed. On Coruscant, Palpatine watched the feed and spoke softly to the Senate. "The Jedi cannot be trusted," he said. Pause. "Even their best turn." And in the temple, the council felt the wound. If Obi-Wan could fall, anyone could. Anakin stared into the burning Geonosis horizon, shaking with anger and disbelief. Padmé grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the evacuation ships. And far away in hyperspace, Obi Wan realized the war had started, with his name as the first casualty. Dooku's ship cut through hyperspace like a knife, and Obi Wan stood in the narrow cabin, hands free but not safe. Every instinct screamed to escape. The Force told him to watch. They arrived at a separatist relay station hidden in a dead asteroid field. No flags, no speeches, only ships coming and going like a heartbeat. War logistics, war business. Dooku walked Obi-Wan through corridors lined with droid parts and encrypted terminals. "You wanted evidence," he said. "Pause, so look." Obi-Wan saw procurement lists with Republic markings, medical supplies paid for by Senate accounts, fuel contracts routed through neutral banks that somehow always ended in separatist hands. It wasn't coincidence, it was coordination. "This is treason," Obi-Wan whispered. Dooku's eyes stayed calm. "It is control." They reached a command room where holomaps showed Republic fleets arriving late, always late, while separatist forces somehow knew the safe lanes. Obi-Wan's stomach tightened. Jedi were dying because someone was steering them into traps. "Who?" Obi-Wan demanded. "Tell me who is doing this?" Dooku didn't answer with a name. He answered with a shape. "The Sith," he said. Pause. "A master hidden in your Senate, using your laws and your trust as weapons." Obi-Wan felt cold anger rise. "And you expect me to believe you're not part of it?" Dooku turned, almost offended. "I am part of the war," he admitted, "not the puppeteer." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I left the Order because the Republic was already rotten. The Jedi chose loyalty to a dying system. Pause. I chose truth." Obi-Wan stared at the files again, seeing the pattern lock into place. If Dooku was right, the Jedi were fighting the wrong enemy. Then a new message pinged on the terminal, an encrypted transmission labeled only Sidious. Obi-Wan's breath caught as Dooku reached to open it. The holo projector warmed, casting a dark glow across Obi-Wan's face. Dooku looked at him and said, "Now you will hear him." And the Sith Lord's voice began to speak, calm, familiar, and terrifyingly close to home. Dooku's ship cut through hyperspace like a knife, and Obi-Wan stood in the narrow cabin, hands free but not safe. Every instinct screamed to escape. The Force told him to watch. They arrived at a separatist relay station hidden in a dead asteroid field. No flags, no speeches, only ships coming and going like a heartbeat. War logistics, war business. Dooku walked Obi-Wan through corridors lined with droid parts and encrypted terminals. "You wanted evidence," he said. Pause, so look. Obi-Wan saw procurement lists with Republic markings, medical supplies paid for by Senate accounts, fuel contracts routed through neutral banks that somehow always ended in separatist hands. It wasn't coincidence, it was coordination. "This is treason," Obi-Wan whispered. Dooku's eyes stayed calm. "It is control." They reached a command room where holomaps showed Republic fleets arriving late, always late, while separatist forces somehow knew the safe lanes. Obi-Wan's stomach tightened. Jedi were dying because someone was steering them into traps. "Who?" Obi-Wan demanded. "Tell me who is doing this?" Dooku didn't answer with a name. He answered with a shape. "The Sith," he said. Pause. "A master hidden in your Senate, using your laws and your trust as weapons." Obi-Wan felt cold anger rise. "And you expect me to believe you're not part of it?" Dooku turned, almost offended. "I am part of the war," he admitted, "not the puppeteer." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I left the Order because the Republic was already rotten. The Jedi chose loyalty to a dying system. Pause. I chose truth."
Obi-Wan stared at the files again, seeing the pattern lock into place. If Dooku was right, the Jedi were fighting the wrong enemy. Then a new message pinged on the terminal, an encrypted transmission labeled only Sidious. Obi-Wan's breath caught as Dooku reached to open it. The holo projector warmed, casting a dark glow across Obi-Wan's face. Dooku looked at him and said, "Now you will hear him." And the Sith Lord's voice began to speak, calm, familiar, and terrifyingly close to home. Dooku didn't give Obi-Wan a cell, he gave him a cockpit, a separatist strike craft, a masked call sign, a simple order: cut the Republic's throat without spilling its blood. Obi-Wan refused at first. "I won't kill clones, I won't butcher Jedi." Dooku accepted the words like a teacher accepting a student's limits. Then he bent around them. "Fine, then you will break supply, not..."
Obi-Wan finally saw the pattern when Dooku handed him the next mission file. It wasn't a supply run, it wasn't a blockade. It was a population center, a neutral moon packed with refugees, families displaced by the war. The Republic planned to escort them off-world tomorrow. The Separatists planned to strike tonight. Dooku called it pressure, he called it necessary optics, but the numbers on the screen were not strategy, they were bodies. Obi-Wan's voice dropped. "You're going to slaughter civilians." Dooku didn't blink. "I'm going to end the war faster. And I'm going to make the Jedi look too weak to stop it." Obi-Wan felt cold in his chest. This wasn't about freedom from the Republic. This was about breaking public faith, so people begged for stronger rule. A Sith lesson wearing a politician's cloak. Obi-Wan left the room without permission. He stole a comm key, rerouted a separatist strike signal, and jumped his craft toward the moon. No escorts, no allies, just speed. He arrived above the refugee city as droid bombers dropped from cloud cover. Sirens wailed, crowds scattered. Obi-Wan slammed his ship into their formation, clipped a wing, and spun hard into a dive, pulling 2 bombers off course and into the sea. He landed in the streets and ignited his blue blade. People froze when they saw him. Some screamed, some ran. A child stared at him like he was a monster from the news. Obi-Wan swallowed the pain and kept moving. "Get inside," he shouted. "Find shelter." He deflected blaster fire from battle droids and cut through their lines, pushing them away from the evacuation routes. He didn't fight to win, he fought to buy minutes. Then the worst moment came. Republic gunships arrived overhead, clones spotting a Jedi in separatist markings. Target locks snapped onto Obi-Wan, and his comlink crackled with Anakin's voice, tight with fury. "Obi-Wan, step away from them." Obi-Wan stood between civilians and 2 armies, blade humming in the smoke. He looked up at the gunships and whispered, "Don't do this." And as Anakin's fighter dropped through the clouds, Obi-Wan realized the next battle wouldn't be against droids, it would be against his brother. Anakin landed hard in the ruined plaza, engines screaming down dust and ash. Clone gunships circled above, searchlights sweeping over civilians packed into shelters. The message was clear, this was a capture zone. Obi-Wan stood in the open with his blue blade lowered, not to surrender, but to show he wasn't hunting anyone. His robes were gone, his armor markings were separatist, his eyes were still Jedi. "Anakin," he said, "look at what I'm doing. I'm protecting them." Anakin ignited his saber with a snap of fury. "You protected them by betraying us?" Obi-Wan took a slow step forward. "Dooku is using me to expose a Sith inside the Republic. The Senate is compromised. This war is..." "A lie," Anakin cut in. "Yeah, I've heard your speeches." He pointed his blade at Obi-Wan's chest. "Come back, now, or I bring you in." Obi-Wan's voice tightened. "If you drag me to Coruscant, Palpatine wins." At the name, Anakin flinched just a fraction. Obi-Wan saw it and pushed. "He's closer to you than you think." Then the air changed. A cold pressure rolled over the plaza like a storm front. Every droid froze. Every clone looked up. A solar sailor descended through smoke, elegant and merciless. Dooku stepped out, red blade igniting in one smooth motion. "Excellent," he said. "My Jedi has delivered the chosen one." Anakin's rage surged. Obi Wan's stomach dropped. He finally understood Dooku's real goal, not victory, conversion. Obi Wan moved between Anakin and Dooku. "Don't listen to him." Dooku smiled and struck. 3 blades collided, blue, blue, and red, sparks raining onto broken stone. Anakin attacked Dooku with reckless power. Obi Wan defended, trying to keep Anakin alive and keep Dooku from escaping. Above them, the gunships received a new coded order, one Obi Wan recognized from Dooku's terminal, a Sidious authenticated command. Last lines. Clone cannons turned, away from droids, toward the refugee shelters. Obi Wan shouted, "No!" as Anakin looked up in horror, and Dooku whispered, "Now you see him, and now you choose." Clone cannons shifted toward the refugee shelters, and Anakin's anger turned into panic. He reached out with the Force, trying to shove the gunships off angle, but there were too many, and the pilots fought the push like machines. Obi Wan moved first. He leapt onto a broken column, raised his saber, and shouted into the chaos, "Stand down! Those are civilians!" The clones didn't answer, they only aimed. Dooku smiled like a teacher watching a student finally understand. Sidious gave the order. The Republic obeys. Now watch the Jedi tear itself apart. Obi-Wan's eyes hardened. "You knew this would happen." "I built the conditions," Dooku admitted. "You were my proof that Jedi can fall. Skywalker is my proof that Jedi can be owned." Anakin stepped forward, blade shaking. "You used him, and you used me." Dooku's red saber lifted toward Anakin's throat. "And I will use you again." That was the moment Obi-Wan chose. Not separatist, not republic, not even the council. He chose the people about to die. Obi-Wan spun and struck at Dooku, fast, precise, no warning. Their blades crashed, blue against red, sparks exploding across the plaza. Dooku staggered, surprised more by the betrayal than the attack. Anakin reacted on instinct, joining Obi-Wan, and for the first time since Geonosis, master and apprentice fought as one. Together, they drove Dooku back toward his ship. Obi-Wan severed a control cable. Anakin shattered the ramp struts with the Force. Dooku hissed and threw lightning to cover his retreat, then vanished into the sailor's shadow and escaped into the smoke. But the damage was already done. The clones fired anyway, 2 volleys, before Obi-Wan's signal jammer finally cut their command link. The shelters burned, survivors screamed, holocams recorded everything, and across the galaxy the story spread. Jedi fought Jedi, and civilians paid. Last lines. Obi-Wan looked at the flames and knew no apology could fix this. Anakin stared at him, torn between relief and rage. Then a new alert hit every channel. The Jedi Council had issued a warrant for Obi-Wan's arrest.